On June 21, 2025, President Donald Trump ordered a dramatic and highly controversial series of strikes against Iran's most critical nuclear facilities, sending shockwaves through the international community and igniting fierce debate at home and abroad. The world was left stunned as news of the attack broke, escalating a long-simmering conflict and raising fears of a much wider war in the Middle East. The operation was meticulously planned, involving 6 B-2 stealth bombers flying non-stop from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, demonstrating the extraordinary global reach, speed, and precision of U.S. military power in the modern era. Within hours, Trump appeared before the nation and the world, quickly declaring the mission a spectacular success. He claimed Iran's nuclear sites were completely obliterated and took to social media to reinforce his message of strength and resolve. He framed the attack as a necessary act of self-defense, arguing that Iran, which he called the world's top state sponsor of terror, had left the United States with no other choice but to act decisively. The strikes came after the dramatic collapse of peace talks, which had been derailed by a prior Israeli attack on Iran. That assault destroyed any remaining trust between the parties and made further negotiations impossible. With diplomacy dead and tensions at a breaking point, Trump and his closest advisors turned to the military option they'd been weighing for weeks, convinced that decisive action was now unavoidable. Around the globe, people watched anxiously, aware that this was not just another skirmish, but a major turning point in the already volatile relationship between the United States and Iran. As military forces mobilized and governments braced for possible retaliation, the stage was set for a dangerous and unpredictable new chapter in the Middle East. The U.S. strikes targeted Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan, 3 sites at the very core of Iran's nuclear ambitions. These facilities weren't just random targets, they represented the heart of Iran's nuclear program, each playing a unique and vital role in the country's pursuit of nuclear capabilities. Fordow, buried deep within a mountain to shield it from attack, was struck with GBU-57 bunker buster bombs, the first time these massive specialized weapons were ever used in combat. The facility's location made it one of the most heavily fortified nuclear sites in the world, and its destruction was a major blow to Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Natanz, Iran's main uranium enrichment facility, was hit by a combination of bunker busters and Tomahawk missiles. This site was central to Iran's ability to produce enriched uranium, a key ingredient for both nuclear energy and, potentially, nuclear weapons. Isfahan, crucial for converting uranium ore into gas for enrichment, was targeted to disrupt Iran's entire nuclear fuel cycle. By striking Isfahan, the U.S. aimed to halt the process at its earliest stage, making it far more difficult for Iran to rebuild its program quickly. The goal was not just to inflict damage but to dismantle Iran's nuclear infrastructure for years to come, setting back its ambitions by a significant margin, and making any recovery slow and costly. These sites had long been under the watchful eyes of international inspectors, serving as the clearest indicators of Iran's nuclear progress and intentions. Their destruction sent shockwaves through the global non-proliferation community. By destroying them, the U.S. aimed to eliminate what it saw as an existential threat, not just to itself, but to its allies and the broader international order. The strikes sent a powerful message: the United States would act decisively and with overwhelming force to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran, regardless of the risks or the global reaction. But the consequences for the region would be immediate and unpredictable, raising tensions and fears of a wider conflict that could reshape the Middle East for years to come. Iran's response was swift and dramatic. Within hours of Trump's announcement, a barrage of ballistic missiles rained down on Israel, lighting up the night sky and sending shockwaves across the region. The world watched in disbelief as the missiles streaked overhead, marking a new and dangerous phase in the conflict. Air raid sirens wailed through Israeli cities, sending families scrambling for shelter in the dead of night. Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system leapt into action, intercepting many of the incoming rockets, but not all could be stopped. The sense of fear and uncertainty was palpable as explosions echoed across urban neighborhoods. 16 civilians were wounded in the attacks, and several cities suffered significant damage. Shattered windows, damaged buildings, and emergency responders working through the chaos. For many Israelis, the strikes shattered their sense of security and brought the reality of war to their doorsteps. The attack demonstrated that Iran's military reach was not just a threat, but a reality, its missiles could strike deep into Israeli territory, proving both capability and intent. Iranian commanders watched closely, sending a clear message to their adversaries. Israel, having coordinated with the US on the initial strikes, responded forcefully. Israeli fighter jets launched a series of airstrikes on military targets in western Iran, targeting missile sites and command centers in a bid to cripple Iran's offensive capabilities. The conflict quickly escalated into a direct and dangerous military exchange between Iran and Israel, with the United States deeply involved in both strategy and support. The region braced for further escalation as military forces on all sides mobilized. Around the globe, people watched in alarm as breaking news dominated headlines. World leaders rushed into urgent meetings and the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session, fearing the violence could spiral into a full-blown regional war. In response to the escalating crisis, Israel closed schools and workplaces, leaving playgrounds and streets eerily empty. Meanwhile, U.S. cities increased security at synagogues and other religious sites, bracing for possible repercussions. The Middle East was plunged into its most dangerous and unpredictable crisis in decades, with the threat of wider war looming over every city and every family. That evening, President Trump addressed the nation, projecting confidence and strength. He praised the military's success and his advisors, framing the strikes as a bold move to keep America safe. Trump warned Iran, choose peace or face even greater attacks. He thanked Israel for its cooperation, signaling a united front against Tehran. The message was clear: any aggression against Israel would be met with U.S. force. Trump argued that decisive action now would prevent a future war with a nuclear Iran. Supporters saw powerful leadership. Critics called it reckless and dangerous. The world was left to wonder if this show of strength would bring peace or provoke more conflict. In Washington, the strikes ignited fierce debate. Republicans rallied behind Trump, calling the action necessary to stop a nuclear Iran. Democrats and some independents condemned the move as unconstitutional, arguing Congress alone can declare war. Progressive voices called for consequences, with some labeling the strike an impeachable offense. Even a few Republicans broke ranks, insisting the president had overstepped his authority. The strikes reignited a fundamental debate. Who controls America's war powers, the president or Congress? The nation was divided, with the stakes higher than ever. The constitutional struggle was now front and center in the national conversation. Protests erupted across the U.S., with thousands demanding no war with Iran. Internationally, most nations urged restraint, fearing the conflict would destabilize the region. Iran's allies issued threats, while its officials downplayed the damage, claiming the nuclear sites could be rebuilt. The International Atomic Energy Agency reported no radiation leaks, offering a sliver of relief. But tensions remained sky-high, with the world watching every move by Washington, Tehran, and Tel Aviv. The strikes set a new precedent for direct confrontation in the Middle East. The core issues, nuclear ambitions and regional power, remained unresolved. The world held its breath, fearing the next spark could ignite a much larger war.